In this video, I'll be talking about incompatible triggers and issues with the Radian Talon safety that you didn't know about because the information is kept from you. I tried to use this lower and the SIG conversion kit on the SIG MCX Rattler LT upper, and that's where the issue started. Thanks to help and direction from some of the viewers, they brought up that it could be an issue using the Radian safety with the Geissele trigger, which they were right. On my 11.5, sometimes there's a small bit of hesitation before the wall or after the wall where it should break, it'll kick back and I have to pull it a little bit more. That's another indicator besides using this on the Rattler where it was a lot worse and unusable. I'll read the emails from Radian and Geissele and I'll put some of the information and pictures in this video. For me to find out about this, I had to experience issues to even know what questions to ask because Geissele and Radian choose to dishonestly hide this information for motives of greed. We'll start with the Radian emails and I'll go to Geissele. The Geissele SSA trigger line is known to have some issues with the Talons, specifically in the 45-degree setting. Geissele actually recommends against the use of any 45-degree safeties with their triggers as well. No one, including myself, is going to know about that because it's not publicly stated. Sometimes a new cylinder can relieve those issues, but it's not always a guarantee. Talons will work fine in the 90-degree setting though. If you'd like to try a new cylinder, I can send it out. The cylinder they're talking about is the part in between that connects the two levers. I didn't want to try a new cylinder, especially if it's not a guarantee and people are recommending against it. I then went to reconfirm and he said in the 90-degree setting, you should not have any issues with the Talon / SSA combo. That gives me a little hope that I'm not completely out of a safety. I can switch it to the 90-degree. Customers have sent us screenshots of Geissele customer support communicating this. So supposedly other people have had problems. I have not heard this from other people, or at least I didn't know what videos to look up to find this because I wasn't aware. I have not seen an official statement from them on the matter. Well, that's typical because they don't want to drive their sales down. The Geissele SD-3G/E and Geissele SSP both work fine with the Talon. He doesn't specify if he's talking about in the 45 or 90-degree throw. Then he was kind enough to provide me the incompatible triggers when using the Radian in the 45-degree setting. The Geissele SSA, SSA-E, SSA-EX, Geissele G2S Super Cut, Geissele Super Tricon, Elf Tactical ELF SE, Wilson Combat TR TTU M2, CMC Triggers, so I'm guessing he's saying all CMC triggers, Geissele SD-C, and Rise Armament RA-535. That's a pretty substantial list of triggers that don't work in the 45-degree setting, and that's the only ones that they know about, which have probably been brought to their attention or possibly some of their own testing. My understanding is that the design / manufacturing tolerance difference in the highlighted area below, which I'll pull this picture up, I'm not familiar enough with their triggers or specs. So Radian is then blaming it on the Geissele trigger in the back of the trigger, that because the back of the trigger is slanted or not wide enough, it's not picking up or able to throw the hammer all the way. He doesn't really much explain there. Because I was communicating back and forth, I asked whose fault with it. Companies always pointing the finger at each other, which both of them are doing. And then when I was talking to Geissele and SIG, Geissele was pointing the finger saying that we don't recommend our triggers to be used with SIG. And then SIG was saying, well, you need to clean the trigger even though it wasn't really dirty. Geissele does say that they don't recommend these regular triggers with the MCX and MPX, but that is not with the new LTs, which SIG changed something on the bolt that where the hammer hits, it is now going to be able to fire. My understanding, they are saying that these can't be used in the older MCX, Virtus, and Rattler. They do make specific SIG triggers, but the conversion kit working with other Geissele triggers for other people makes me think that it is more this safety issue itself. I said I think it would be the right thing for them and Radian to list this information as a warning to the consumer. After all, these products are being used for combat and self-defense. I don't think profit should take higher priority than looking out for the consumer in the reliability aspect. I do appreciate him being honest, even though it's in a private setting, and I stand by it that it is the honorable thing to do to look out for the consumer, especially when these are such dire pieces of equipment People's lives are on the line using these. And for a company to sell a few more safeties instead of listing the information could potentially save some people's lives. Even for situations where you're just using it for personal use or fun, it should not be at the cost of the consumer, especially when you have a company as big as Radian, who I'm sure is very profitable, where this brings it back to greed, and also where he did no longer respond. Pretty typical. You call them out and they don't want to talk anymore. Technically, this is Radian's fault since it's not just a one-off with this specific trigger, the SSA-E. It is a long list of triggers and it's only what they know about. I think this is some bad product testing from Radian, not to try different triggers, not to be able to notice, hey, this is a problem with these triggers, especially something as well known as Geissele, probably the most well known and some of the most quality triggers you can get, and that they don't somehow know this before production, or they just put it out anyways. And they're like, well, we just need to make sales. We just need to get money in. Money is all these people care about. They don't care who they're affecting. They don't care if there's incompatibility issues. At least list it. List it on the website for these safeties, or don't even sell the 45-degree option if you're going to be having these problems. That's the honorable thing to do. That is the manly and respectable thing to do, to not be trying to take advantage of people in a dishonest, hidden, or secret way because you're not giving people information. No reply to that, trying to get them take accountability and do the right thing and put it on the website. Just got ignored, no response. Everybody's pointing the finger at each other. It's him, it's her, it's her. Pretty childish behavior. Now we're on to the email with Geissele. Yes, using a short throw safety can lead to compatibility/tolerance stacking issues, especially in terms of pull or reset issues. If that's what you're running into, which that is what I'm running into, we recommend using 90-degree mil-spec safeties to ensure compatibility. And of course, if you're having issues with that setup, we can absolutely take a further look. Which most 90-degree mil-spec safeties that come on your AR suck, which is why I didn't want to use it and why I haven't been using them. Even in the 90-degree configuration on the Radian safety, the barrel of that safety has different dimensions than a standard 90-degree safety, which can lead to issues with our triggers. This is true across the board for our triggers as well. I believe what he's talking about when he says barrel is the cylinder part that Radian was mentioning about sending a new one out that can possibly solve that problem. Him saying this is true across the board for our triggers as well, I would assume that he's referring to all of their triggers, which would then trump what Radian said about only the specific ones. Even the two SD ones that they mentioned, those, according to Geissele, would have problems potentially. I asked if there were any other safeties or 45-degree safeties that would be good to use with theirs. They said they cannot recommend any 45-degree safeties for use with their triggers regardless of brand and manufacturer. Any 90-degree safety will work just fine. There are a number of good options out there, but I recommend the Magpul or Strike Industries. Magpul ESK looks pretty decent. I do like that option, although I haven't looked into other options. I can't speak knowledgeably as to why that information isn't listed on our site. I'll pass that feedback along, as I believe it may prevent future headache. It's not listed on the website because it's going to affect sales, and it could potentially affect people from buying their triggers if they did want to use the Radian 45 and they're not willing to compromise on another safety. I hope it does get passed along, and hopefully it can be listed on their website as an honorable thing to do. But I know from a company standpoint, all these people care about is money. That's all they care about. It's greed. We need to get sales in. We need to get money coming in. We're going to give as little information as possible, like their recommendation that these shouldn't be used on the SIG, MCX, and MPX, but it's because they have other triggers for that, and those triggers are more expensive. So yeah, they'll give that information because they have other options, and they're like, well, you can just get these triggers instead where they're more expensive and we can make more money off that. But any damaging information that they might put out or damaging to the company goal, they're not going to put that. I asked, why is none of this information listed as a warning on your website? Which is why he said, I don't know why. And again, it's just, I don't know. it's Radian's fault. Radian's saying it's Geissele's fault. Just the pointing the fingers, which I do believe it would be Radian's fault. But since they are both big names in the gun industry for AR-15 parts, I would at least figure that one of them would try to work with each other. If it's not going to work with common high-end triggers like the Geissele, one of the most well-known triggers, especially the SSA-E, that is like the gold standard for triggers in my opinion, and from what I've heard, I think it's safe to say that this safety isn't going to work with most triggers. And unfortunately, I can't recommend it anymore. It's been my go-to safety. I made a video on it on why I like it, and then months or years down the line, I happen to run into this issue because it's hidden. Having used this for years and not having any issues, but then now I run into issues. Something has to be used for years or in very specific configurations to even notice it, because it could be so minor that you don't notice it, or so inconsistent that you don't notice it until, oh, I want to throw it on the SIG MCX Rattler conversion kit, and then you have major problems, and then it leads down this rabbit hole that takes months, like 6 months to figure out, and then you figure out that you've been having information withheld from you. This video is made to inform others, so hopefully they don't experience issues themselves. I am going to continue testing this in the 45-degree setting on my 11.5 and 14.5. Ultimately, if I keep experiencing those problems even minorly, I am going to switch back to the 90. Hope that it will work in the 90-degree configuration to where I don't have to buy new safeties for all my ARs. If you've had similar issues while using a combination like this, feel free to comment down below. I am interested to hear about your experience. Now, if you're using this and it's been working good for you and you've not been having problems, I'm glad to hear that. I hope that I'm just a one-off situation and that it's working good and reliably for the majority of people. I'm going to go more into this on a different video, but it's happening with other companies as well. Withholding information, problems that companies know about, hiding them, not having it listed on their website. It's dishonest. It's not acting with integrity. It's putting greed, sales, and profitability and success of that company above the needs and desires of the consumer. These are self-defense products. For companies to withhold problems for a $50 safety and a $200 trigger is actually ridiculous when you're comparing it to somebody's life. Radian and Geissele are both way more wealthy than the average person, you and me, and I extremely like these companies. Geissele makes my favorite trigger. Radian makes my favorite safety. I love the Radian charging handles. I like their rifles. I like Geissele rifles, but when I know that a company is doing everything possible to make a buck, it does not give me confidence in them. It does not allow me to trust them. Being a part of the Second Amendment community and being a part of the gun industry, we all should have a higher set of standards, looking out for one another, being unified, not being divided, not setting out for each other's personal gain, but for the interest of all of us and what the Second Amendment was designed for. And when each man is out for their own buck or their own personal interests, all it is dividing, and it makes us weaker. If you want to see more videos like this, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to help support the channel, and thank you for watching.